I didn't know it before, but this one has been foretold of in the past as I've been watching WWE ECW. This particular episode, episode 16, which aired September the 26th of 2006, it ran 44 minutes. Like I said, I have been calling for this one, not realizing it was a specific episode where we emanate from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in the main event, the Sandman takes on the Big Show for the World Championship. Justin Roberts, he introduces good old JR, Jim Ross, and JR thanks Taz and Joey Styles for the invitation. But yeah, like I said, I've been calling for this one because this is the episode where Hardcore Holly lacerates his back in a match with Rob Van Dam. And every time those two guys are in a segment, I ask, is this the one? Well, this is the one. Even though Jim Ross thanks Taz and Joey Styles, they both joke about how they didn't invite Jim Ross, which I think is a touch too rude, but it's not nearly as rude as Matt Striker interrupting. He says Paul Heyman wanted him to come out and educate Jim and the audience. Matt Striker says it is clear Jim is the champion of the blue collar man. In a statement I never thought I'd hear, Matt Striker says Jim Ross reminds him of the Sandman and says his name, and he appears like the Joe Hendry gimmick, except it is the Sandman who appears because Matt Striker said his name, and Sandman begins caning Striker, and then he offers the cane to Jim, and he hits Striker with it. Now Jim Ross and the Sandman toast to the next ECW champion, the Sandman, and they both drink a beer. Up next, Extreme Rules, Rob Van Dam versus Hardcore Holly. As I said before the open rolled, this is the one that kept coming to mind, the match that I always think about when I see Rob Van Dam taking on Hardcore Holly, or they're even in the same segment together, because this is a moment in time that stands the test of time. I get very pleased thinking that at least this opening match can't end in disqualification. They play a replay of Hardcore interfering in RVD's main event match with Booker T last week. I didn't expect this to start with a headlock, but after a few wrestling moves, Hardcore starts throwing fists. The first 10 minutes of this episode have just flown by. It's been a very smooth and very ECW episode. On the outside, RVD sets up a table, but before he can use it, Holly sends RVD into the steel steps, then into the ring post and the barricade. Back in the ring, Hardcore goes for the pin, but RVD kicks out. My assumption is that the table will be a part of the finish since it hasn't been touched since it was set up. But that assumption came before I remembered, or before I finished the episode, and it made me remember how this is that infamous moment where Hardcore gets his back lacerated. Hardcore Holly has been in control basically the whole time. There's been a little bit of back and forth in the ring, but Joey and Taz both say how if RVD can quicken the pace, he'll get in control. Both guys are trying to suplex each other, and Holly is trying to suplex RVD out of the ring, and RVD is trying to suplex Holly into the ring. This is the moment Holly gets his suplex onto RVD from the inside of the ring to the outside, and I knew it was coming, but I thought this happened later in the year. Something around December to Dismember, because I do remember Holly getting into that match. But I guess between September and December, he heals up because in this moment, it is very nasty. And Hardcore uses a chair to take the damage to RVD after the table tore him up. Even through all the damage, Hardcore is still able to jam this chair into Van Dam's neck, and he hits a big leg drop from the top onto the chair while it's on Rob's face. Goes for the win, but RVD kicks out, and then Rob suplexes Holly onto the chair, right onto that gash on his back. And man, I just feel so bad for Bob Holly. I hope we get to the finish soon. Seems like Rob is getting the hits in, so hopefully the finish is coming. Rob hits Rolling Thunder with the chair on Bob, and still he isn't able to win, as because that move just never gets the job done for RVD. Oh my goodness, Hardcore power bombs Rob onto the chair, and Rob kicks out. And this is it's just a classic contest. I don't know if it's an absolute 5-star match, but I was about to say that Rob hitting the 5-star frog splash is a blessing to Holly. But the problem is, Hardcore Holly doesn't take the frog splash. He throws a chair into Rob's face as he's trying to hit the move. It's just pure insanity. Mercifully, Rob Van Dam is able to hit his finish and he gets the win. 5 out of 5 stars. Just wow. This is as close as you can get to the original ECW. The crowd respects Hardcore Holly after that amazing contest. It is so reminiscent to me of how that the crowd wasn't on the side of babyface Tommy Dreamer, but when he said, "Thank you, sir, may I have another," while getting caned by the Sandman, now he is hardcore. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular here at Mr. Super Oz, I just want to thank you for tuning in to the channel. It exists because I, Oz, from the channel Mr. Super Oz, I wrote a 68-page graphic novel called Everlasting Survivors. Volume 1 is called All Day Long. If you follow the link in the description of this video, you can get yourself hats, shirts, posters, all kinds of fun things. But most importantly, you can get the story itself. And the more people that pick up the story, the greater the chances are that there can be continued adventures with these heroes. If you could, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, enjoy. Now backstage, we get a promo from CM Punk. Kelly hits on CM Punk and enter Mike Knox, who asks, "Don't you have your own girlfriend?" Or maybe woman, I forget now. Knox says, "You're lucky. I gotta go straighten her out," as if that he was going to A, stand up to CM Punk, and B, is actually going to do anything to Kelly. This so-called relationship is just, it's ridiculous, and I look forward to the day when it's all said and done. Up next is Ariel versus Francine. Hopefully, it isn't as bad as I expect. I know Shelly Martinez can wrestle, but I feel like Francine was mostly just a valet in the original ECW. But maybe I'm mistaken. I am pulling for the two girls, so that's something. Ariel cuts a cringe promo about how she read Francine's tarot cards and they came up, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's dumb. Francine comes out, hits a takedown, and basically just strips Ariel. And that's when Balls Mahoney hits the ring with a chair. And it was a short and, pretend wrestling segment. But they then play a Sandman hype video because of him challenging the Big Show in the main event. We see Big Show in the locker room with Paulie and his security team. Heyman is warning Big Show about how good Sandman is with a cane. And Show is so confident in himself that he says to Paul and to his boys that they should all stay in the back. And Big Show believes in himself so much that he wants the cane to be made legal. Yet another useless Rene Dupree backstage segment. This is another thing I look forward to ending. As a matter of fact, it was so inconsequential that I forgot that Rene Dupree even was on the ECW show to begin with. And calling himself the most extreme athlete, it always felt bad. And they kept doing all these, basically catching him in a towel segment for the backstage thing. So it was like he wants to be perceived as a modern Val Venus, but with no, I don't know. No, it's pointless. Don't like it. Don't need to see Rene Dupree in a towel or any of that stuff. I'll give Big Show this. He's been coming out in the challenger position so much that it no longer even bothers me. And to be honest, Sandman entering from the crowd really should be given the main event position or the championship position. Joey Styles is very pumped up. With only 7 minutes remaining in the show, I don't even see how this thing can be bad. Like, Sandman's allowed to use his cane, and so that puts things in his wheelhouse. And so with that, I mean, like, they have a completely fine match. Is nothing terrible. Like, we get Big Show with his big chops and the cane spots from Sandman, but the fact is, you are not going to outdo the opening match of the show. That thing was just as close to the original ECW as you can get. I feel like with the blood, the crowd not caring that the bad guy is a bad guy, but just respecting his grit and determination. I mean, and honestly, even the women's segment was very original ECW too, with women who aren't necessarily wrestlers, not necessarily wrestling, but working a segment that's pretended to be wrestling. And so with that, this was a very good 4 out of 5 star episode. Big Show does retain with his huge leg drop to the chest. And yeah, it was, if every episode of WWE's ECW was at this level, and by that I basically mean just one outstanding match and then 2 segments that aren't explicitly denigrating to, to in-ring segments. I mean, because you also had the Jim Ross in-ring segment and the backstage segment. But if you have segments that aren't insulting to the fans, and then you have one spectacular or really great match, that's really all it takes to get a good grade for the show. I fear that they will continue to not follow the formula, but given last week and this week, the Booker T episode and this one, maybe they figured it out. Maybe the show will continue to be good until December, I hope. I don't know. We'll see when I decide to watch more WWE ECW. But until then, come back all next week for more fun content from Mr. Super Oz.